I mean, she and Keir Starmer have, I think, repeatedly said that she wasn't talking to Labour when she was doing the Partygate investigation. Remember, Sue Gray was no longer head of the Propriety and Ethics group in the Cabinet Office. She'd left that job to go to Northern Ireland, and then her actual job was to be a second permanent secretary in the Cabinet Office in the Department of Levelling Up, leading on intergovernmental relations and the Constitution. That was the job she got when she came back from Northern Ireland. So she was actually just sort of, if you like, brought back by Simon Case to do the investigation to Partygate when he had to recuse himself because it was reported that some of the parties happened in Simon Case's outer office. So Simon Case had to step down shortly after agreeing to do that investigation for the Prime Minister. And so I think there is an issue on timing. The sort of, actually the Sue Gray report was completed early-ish last year. We then had that hiatus while the Met investigated, and then I think the report finally published in the summer in June, looking back. But I think then, and actually Keir Starmer didn't have a vacancy for Chief of Staff at that stage, so we'll have to see what's said about timing. But there then was a sort of second stage when the Privileges Committee the Privileges Committee started looking at the at Partygate. And there was some sort of discussion, I think, probably with the Cabinet Propriety and Ethics team. We don't know whether Sue Gray was involved or not then about her report. So, so maybe there'll be a bit of things on the overlap there. But I think the real sort of issue is less the report. That's rather something that Boris Johnson allies are determined to be able to discredit Sue Gray's report, which many other people think was really quite mild towards Boris Johnson, given some of the facts. But they're quite keen to be able to portray the Sue Gray report as a stitch-up by somebody who was already, making her bid for a job with the Labour leader. I'm not sure that's likely to be an outcome of this investigation. But some of the concerns about Sue Gray is there are guidance in the minister, in the sort of guidance around how to apply the civil service code, sorry, not the ministerial code. There is stuff on disclosing contacts with the opposition. And that's the bit they will be looking at, is did she disclose this to anyone? Now, normally you would assume that's a sort of contact with the opposition where you might be briefing them on a policy or something like that. And obviously that's absolutely directly in ministers' interest to know if their civil servants are having chats to the opposition. It may be that that's something they authorise because they actually want the opposition to understand the basis of a policy, whatever. But it's a bit harder to know quite what the process is supposed to be when you're talking to the opposition about possibly taking a job with them. Should you be telling Michael Gove? That would be a bit weird for your relationship if that job then didn't pan out, to say, Michael, I just want you to know that that I'm looking into this possibility of a job with the opposition. Doesn't really work. Do you tell your permanent secretary? Maybe you do that. Sue Gray did have a permanent secretary because she was only what's called a second permanent secretary. So maybe she should have done that. And I think what actually we're discovering is that our rules, we don't actually have rules that are written that actually make any sense in a world where it is actually possible for civil servants to decide that they want to go and work for a political party or indeed become candidates at this very high level of seniority, which makes a bunch of sense. And we'll discover that when we go to Acoba. That's called the Advisory Committee on Business Appointments. I don't think working for Keir Starmer is a business appointment, but that's the only body we have to look, even in the very toothless way that Katy described, at what the rules are when people decide to change jobs with a degree of sensitivity about it. So we're working quite murky areas.
Yeah.